All right, everybody. Welcome to the ABSP Masters Melee Finals match between Harshan Lamabadusuriya and Brian Poe. It's been a really exciting event so far to get to this point. And if you're sitting there wondering, what is the ABSP Masters Melee? How have we gotten such good players to compete in this event here? The answer is this is a invitational UK focused online only event that featured 12 of the top players from the UK. We started out with a 10 game group stage where we split those 12 players into groups of 6, and everyone in each group played their group mates twice, with the top 2 players from each group advancing. You can see Harshan and Phil from Group 1 advancing out of the group stage, and Brian and Lukeman in Group 2 advancing out of the group stage. Getting out of that stage guaranteed you some prize money, a share of 1,000 US dollars in prize money. And as you can see, the bracket has led us to this point, with Brian defeating Phil in their match and Harshan defeating Lukeman in the other side of the bracket. So 2 amazing players in a best of 7 match. What could be better? This is a real Scrabble treat for all of you out there. So hope you all enjoy getting started and watching. But before we do, just a quick bit of promo here. If you're watching this app and wondering, how can I get my hands on it? It looks pretty nice. Well, if you are based out of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or the Philippines, you can try it right now using the pinned link on your YouTube chat there. ABSP tournament link there. So give it a shot. It's got a real nice classic no frills look and feel. I make a puzzle every day that you can try with a hopefully satisfying answer. If you are a premium subscriber, you can review every game and find the good plays that you missed. And yeah, we're very excited about the future of this app. So with that, intro is complete. We've got Harshan standing by. Harshan, feel free to begin game 1 against Brian, and best of luck to the both of you in this match. So I'm going to mute myself on our call here and mute the players. There we go. Okay, all the audio is muted here. I know the camera looks weird, but I promise it's going to be back to normal. And we're going to start Harshan's timer. Thank you very much, Phil. One of our competitors saying that he likes my puzzles, which I very much appreciate. And Harshan with the first move, cramp leaving TX. That seems pretty solid. Obviously tempting to make a play using the X, but there wasn't really a long enough option there to avoid leaving Harshan with too many consonants going into his next turn. And back over to Brian, and he's got the first move of the game, and he is playing quickly. He is going to be bingoing here, striking first blood with reittered. Very nice. So an opening bingo for Brian, who spends absolutely no time playing this word. 2 R's in the word. And right away, not a very appealing draw for Brian, but he sees that he could potentially play Mugwump through this M to dump a lot of tiles, which would be a very, very satisfying play to see hit the board. So Harshan with cramp, Brian with reittered, which I think is how you would say that, right? It's like an archaic variation of reiterate. So yeah, we will have to see if we will all get to see Mugwump go down on our next turn here. So this was originally going to be a best of 5 match, but the players were hankering for more. So we acquiesced and lowered the clocks from 20 minutes aside to 15. And Harshan seeing X-Ray potentially coming down for a fantastic score, 56 points. Don't think Harshan is going to wait very long for that one. Great, great play by him. FTV is not the best combination. Let me get this board looking a little bit better from Brian's perspective for you all. Just have to frame it up a little more squarely here, which we will do. The thing about that X that's open there is, as we are going to see Mugwump, this is fantastic. Great, great play on Brian's part there, as I was a little bit slow to hit his clock here, so we'll just pause for Harshan for just a moment. But yeah, that is a great play, leaving the J, but the X sits tantalizingly open, and neither player at that moment seemed to have a really good play to use the open X in the triple lane. So sometimes we fret a little bit about these openings, and we go back to Harshan. So was not able to fix the flickering for Brian's screen share, but Harshan's is pretty stable, and hopefully it's not too much of a deterrent to enjoying the match. Harshan getting set to play Weft. He could tack another E onto this, and that's likely what he is considering right now. Do I want to get the extra points? And he's going to opt for the more balanced leave of just playing Weft for 38 instead of Weft with an E at the end for 4 more points. And he draws another V, so he may be very happy to have that balance in his leave, as we'll start Brian's clock here. And yeah, we're going to be playing at a good pace. It should be a pretty peppy match with the quicker clocks here, so I'm going to do my best to stay on top of the action. Brian making a pretty solid play. Again, the X remaining untouched, but Jai for 34 seems quite solid. Get that J off the rack and hope for better things for Brian. And it's a very, very close match in the early going here. With both players slogging a little bit. Of course, Brian with the bingo, Harshan with the big X play, and slightly better draws after the bingo. And all of that leads to a nice even game here. Let me center this up. There we go. So play continues. Harshan with the 2 Vs. Not ideal, of course. And again, this X, you would think, how could there not be a play from either player that hits this very beautiful X in the upper corner? But with players this good, that is something that you're going to see is a little bit more of a willingness to open the board sometimes, just knowing that your opponent is skilled enough that they're going to be able to score well, even without triple word scores open on a lot of boards. So opening the triple, yes, it's definitely something to avoid, but with players this good, there are times when it's really okay to go ahead and open certain things. And Harshan is going to go ahead and just play Vox, not willing to allow that opening to sit any longer than necessary, and keeping the board extremely closed as well. So that was really the standout scoring spot remaining on this board. And Harshan blocking it off. There weren't any really good scoring plays elsewhere, and a lot of the other plays that would be reasonable to consider for him there also would have kept both V's on the rack, as we can see Brian quickly responding with Aglu underneath his previous play of Jai. So nicely spotted by him to score pretty well with unappealing tiles. But look at Brian's draw. Yikes. So Harshan with the 2 Vs. Now Brian with 3 Is. So both players are going to be battling through some unappealing letters here. And yeah, at some point, we will see some S's. We will see the blanks. They've taken a little while to come out in this game. But yeah, not yet for either one of those. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay out there at this early point in the stream. If you're noticing any issues with the display or anything like that, I'm actually noticing that the stars are maybe slightly off center. But if anybody notices anything audio-wise or visual-wise, definitely feel free to point that out, and we'll try to get that corrected. Of course, the flickering screen is the exception there. So, Harshan getting set to play Fendi for 28 points. This is one of his higher scoring plays. It does keep the V, so it's potential. Oh, and look at this. Look at that. He's thinking, do I have a place to play Mazel Tov? And Brian wasting very little time identifying some options that allow him to dump two of his three eyes. He's thinking about Wiki or Reiki through the E of Fendi, either of which would do a pretty good job of balancing his rack. Of course, you hate to slow down at this early juncture of the game in that style, but that is what Brian's rack calls for here. A couple other options he could consider would just be peaky in this spot. He may not like opening the triple so productively back to Harshan. And then another word, as Brian goes to the tile bag to take a look, another word worth noting, and then we'll cut to the two board view just so we don't miss anything here, is Fur Kid. He actually could play Fur Kid off of this F. It would leave two eyes, but it would score decently. So a couple of different options for Brian here to consider. As we can see, Harshan, of course, keeping the V on his previous move, but the rest of his tiles definitely are going to bode well for him here to play something like Zealot, as he has picked up. And perhaps it's not going to take that much time, but look at that. The other blank. So both players drawing blanks at roughly the same time in the game here. I do feel like, I wonder, certainly it feels like off of, okay, Zealot is going to yield bingos like Utilidor back to Brian at a minimum. Perhaps there's something better. But this definitely is going to lead to a bit of fireworks here. Harshan with the 50 points there for Zealot. Again, the V very sticky on his rack this game. He had both of them and has struggled to get them off of the rack in short order. But Zealot looks to be a fantastic play by him. So Brian's turn now. He's going to be thinking about where, I'm sure he's already identified a couple of the playable bingos here, and he's having a look through as many of the open letters as possible. The P, for example, would be great if you could come up with a bingo there. It's not to be. Utilidor, 70-pointer for him. He's going to go ahead and play that. And that is his highest scoring bingo. He can't be thrilled by the comeback that it gives. So potentially Loudlier off of the L for only 2 fewer points. Could that have been safer to a point where he would want to play that instead? Maybe. That being said, you never can go too wrong in the mid or early game by picking your highest scoring play. So Harshan, of course, now with ample scoring opportunities here, but he only has the one vowel, which is definitely going to cripple his ability to really hit this spot. He does have the right vowel in the E to play alongside the R, but apart from that, it's going to limit his. So the one vowel is going to make it difficult for him to bingo, of course. It makes it impossible for him to bingo. And it's going to make it difficult for him to really hammer that spot. So we shall see where he elects to go. It looks like he has Dev set up here. This makes a ton of sense. Playing just Dev here, maybe it doesn't look that inspiring, but keeping the CHS blank combination really sets him up very well to come back with, even with this one vowel. If he can just draw one, he sets himself up nicely, and he's drawn two, so we definitely can expect to see a bingo come down from Harshan on his next turn. And meanwhile, not a good situation here for Brian, as he is considering exchanging. The Q does not have a lot going for it here. There's not a great spot to play it. A couple of you have actually pointed out, Lewis in the chat has pointed out, he could bide his time and play Cento here, which would be a beautiful play. um, nestled in the interior of the board, keeping the queue for 30 points. 30 points does feel like it's enough to go ahead and grab that and hope for better things from the queue, even though all four O's are still unseen. So I definitely think that may have been a missed option, but at the same time, keeping the queue is very, very dangerous here with no U's coming to help you whatsoever. So I would not say that exchanging tiles was a big error on his part, if not for Sento. So tricky one there. So that's really, that exchange comes at a great time for Harshan. Admittedly, Brian does have arrow ties on his rack that goes down in a number of places, but Harshan is going to strike first, and he is likely going to try to put the most defensive possible bingo that he can on this board. He has plays that hook wikis going across, and any play like that is going to block off this lane and could make it somewhat difficult for Brian to actually get a bingo down, depending on how flexible his letters are. So tricky one. So it's been pointed out in chat, something like spinach. That would be really nice. Definitely a word that Harshan is apt to find. And that is clearly the word that he's going for here. This looks pretty good. It is going to yield bingos through that H back to Brian, but let's see what Harshan draws. He picks that Q. Almost the same tiles that went back into the bag. Harshan has those now, and Isothere is going to come down in a hurry. And now it's going to be Harshan with the rough tile. So Brian vindicated completely for his exchange. This is actually the only playable bingo. I actually forgot to clock him on that. So we'll just pause it for a moment here, get Harshan his letters, and switch over to his screen. And Harshan is going to go ahead and play Iron potentially. He is still up in the game. So he's clinging to a decent sized lead, hoping, oh man, but Saltando. And there, as soon as I see it, Brian is putting it down. So this is a big, big swing here. So Iron coming down for Harshan. And very, very quickly, Bingo's coming back. And that is going to be a tough one with Harshan holding the Q and no great spot for it. So that was a big, big swing. It's Harshan with booty and a Q on his rack. It's going to be tough. Getting rid of that Q is going to be extremely difficult from here on out in the game. So yeah, that's a tough one. And yeah, he's looking into the bag and seeing that not a lot, or actually that's Brian. And wow, look at that, Brian with Shonin as well. Not that that's going to fit anywhere, but another strong draw for him. So this game really swung on a dime there. It seemed like both players were on the verge of running away with it. Just a couple turns ago, it was Harshan up 100 and Brian in some trouble. But the bingo for Brian, the Q draw for Harshan has things completely reversed in the late stages of this game. So I guess if you're Harshan, you can play Chi here. You can get rid of this. It's too late in the game to exchange. So getting rid of the Q while he has a reasonable play, he has not the best tiles to leave over for next turn, so he has to be a little bit worried of, can I still pull this out unless I draw a bingo? The answer may be no. He might have to draw something through the E of Iron, for example. So yeah, tough situation. If you had any kind of upside that you could identify for the Q, you do have some good plays like boot available for a much better score. This would come much closer to evening the game. Harshan would actually go up. That's 34 points playing boot. But what can you really hope for that Q? I guess you could play cat here. for a little bit better of a score if you're willing to risk extreme vowel overload going into next turn. I guess it's all about what can you really hope for with that cue in hand. So Harshan evaluating boo potentially right here, thinking it over. Um, it's going to be rough. So yeah, very well played. No major bingo misses or any sort of that sort by either player. A couple little moves here and there. Should Brian have played Cento instead of Exchange? Should Harshan? I didn't really even get to analyze his play of Iron, but should he have just played something here? Should he have played something in that spot and let the triple stay untouched? Um, Certainly, you don't get. Well, I guess the lanes of Isothere are still open after that. So in any case, Harshan going ahead and playing Boo for the points to create a nearly tied game here. And let's see what we're looking at. There's one tile in the bag. So Brian is definitely going to be fighting against that cue specifically, making sure that he does not make any kind of scary spot where the cue can play. Let me make sure we're on his screen here. Sorry for the flickers, folks. So he has the last S. That's really, really nice. He has this spot here that's just going to be sort of sitting available if he wants to play there. He can play anything, really. The question is that the spot that he wants to play in now, or is it better to address any kind of cue threat that he can find on this turn now? Should he try to play something in this area to block QAT and just Chi right here? Does that work out better for him? That is likely what he's thinking about. But I think either way, Brian is in very, very good shape here. He has options that score well and leave him nice balanced tiles. I think his biggest concern is what happens if I draw the cue. Can I weather a cue draw with a certain play? And he was just checking to see whether spinach is a word where you could just put an S at the end of it. That's very reasonable to check that. We have the void challenge right now. Comment that Brian can surely get a strong read that Harshan has the cue by taking so long there. Yeah, that's possible. There is some possibility to read into the duration of time that he spent. So, yeah, that's an astute comment. Yeah, this is definitely looking good for Brian. I think, again, in his shoes, I would be concerned about my ability to outperform in an endgame where I draw the cue. But if I don't draw the cue, which is quite common that you're not going to, you're going to be in really, really good shape here. And as we can see, Harshan has it already on the rack. So this definitely looks like Brian's game here in game one, a back and forth one. At various points, both players seemed to be in commanding position, and the cue really dictated this game. Brian drew it initially. His tiles, and he had to slow down and exchange it. Really messed with his flow in the mid game, but then he was able to storm right back after Harshan drew it very quickly after that exchange. So, yeah, we'll just have to see what Brian plays here. Can Harshan make any kind of magic happen with that cue? It doesn't seem likely. And we go from there. I'm just continuing to look and see what hope is there. The L of Zealot is not in the right place to play something like Kibla. It would be so nice if you could at least threaten a big cue play in a spot like that. Doesn't seem like it's there is a spot like that here. So Brian thinking it over. He has a good amount of time. It does feel like even with a cue draw, he might be okay after a nice big score like this. So he's going to play Shen for 37. That scores really, really well. He's just taking a look at this and imagining what happens to me if I draw some of the other stuff that I can get from the bag. What happens if I draw an eye? There were two of them. Just something like Oni in this spot right here, and then you have another out elsewhere on the board. So you should be totally fine if you get an eye draw. We actually know the tile in the bag is a G. If he draws the G, just looking around to see what would happen, he definitely has some outplays. And no, not Anog. Grown here. Looking for another good outplay with this G draw that he's going to get. Not seeing it yet, but maybe it's not even a problem to not have it. So there we go. The play of Shen. Scoring quite well. That feels like it should be enough to put Harshan away here. The question, I guess, is, are there outplays that other than grown? I'm not seeing it yet. Genoa, no. So it's possible that Harshan could buy himself some time by playing something in this area and blocking. And there we go. Very astute. Very astute on his part to quickly realize this might be the only outplay for Brian. That's a great idea on his part. This would allow him to threaten Chi here as a follow-up play. Looking for, at least he has other spots where the Q will play. He can't get stuck with it after this. And he guarantees himself another turn. I don't know if he'll have an outplay with Chi if Brian blocks this spot. Oh, he has Chin here. So maybe Brian's going to have to do something tricky to block everything, but I do think it's possible for him to make some kind of a play in this area that blocks Harshan's outs. But Brian is still up by enough points. Oop, let me start the clock here. So if that is the play, yeah, Brian. Oh, interesting. What happens? Oh, right. Devi. Okay. This is another spot. Didn't see that one. So because of this spot, you have this, and all three of those cannot block all three of the... Sorry. Brian cannot block all three of these Chi spots. So you got this one too as a non-outplay, but you have 3 outplays for Chi once you block. So interesting. So Barite would be the optimal endgame, but it's not going to be enough for Harshan. So nicely spotted by him. He saw it really quickly, correctly identifying Brian's only outplay. And this is, this is the level that you're getting with players like this. Really, really strong. Top players in the world, not just the UK. And playing on a pretty fast time control too. 15 minutes. It's hard not to, that's definitely something you learn playing timed games of Scrabble. And Harshan's going to go back to Barite, and that is his optimal endgame. This is his optimal endgame play. Sometimes when you have an endgame situation like this, even if you're trying to find some end games that maybe aren't optimal, but that put your opponent into a much trickier situation. So even if certain moves, a computer engine would say, yeah, this isn't going to win, there are some moves that make your opponent's life much more difficult, and you're often trying to find moves like that. I don't really think one of those exists here, but of course it's always good to look for something that makes the game more complicated. So Harshan evaluating this play. I think he's likely doing a little math as well, trying to figure out what happens. Is it possible after a play like this, it's going to be, Harshan still is going to be down by 22 after this play. if Brian, and that is the play that he's going to go ahead and make. So is it possible? So he sees Chi. Is it possible that Brian will go for some kind of a block that doesn't score enough? Is that if he doesn't see Devi, which doesn't seem likely? Players this good don't usually miss stuff like this when they're locked in. If he doesn't see this, could he make a really low scoring play here? Yeah, Ego is just going to score enough. That's going to score enough that it's going to outrun even Chin. I think that's going to be just fine for him here. There are a couple other higher scoring plays that leave all this stuff open. He could just play GOE down here, scores even better. It leaves all the Q spots open. It just outruns you a little bit. So we shall see. Let me cut to this board. He's going to play, oh, look at that. He's going to play Pones. This is exactly the sort of thing that's a little risky to do. This is the sort of move that I thought maybe he would go for. It probably still scores too much. But if you were to somehow take a really low score by playing something like Goo, like if you just play GOO here to block Chin and Cheese here, that's the sort of play that gets you into trouble potentially by scoring just not enough points. But even then, Harshan would lose by 3, even after Brian plays Goo in that spot, as I'm seeing now. So this is a pretty unassailable position for Brian, who is, at this point, we can say he is going to go ahead and win this first game here. Ooh, I did something wrong with the star system, too. Wait, I ruined my star system somehow. How did I do that? Well, this is a good time. Well, it looks good here. What happened to this one? Copy. I'm not sure what I did here, but we're gonna... Okay, so there we go. The game reaches its conclusion there. And after Harshan plays Chi, it's going to be Brian with the first win. And all right, we can just, we'll just go ahead and go straight to game 2. Thanks, guys. I'm going to go ahead and mute again, but Brian is off with the first move of game 2. Cool. So Brian got started immediately, which is what we wanted. He's drawn the F and some other not the best tiles, but he's going to go ahead and potentially play Folia. In fact, he's left the R on his rack, which is a great tile to keep as it is a hook to Folia. So, all right, hold on. Let me just make sure I see. I'm going to get the game 1 score all squared away here. As Harshan evaluates his first move, I'm going to go ahead and start his clock. We also got to get the game feeds looking better. That's another weird thing. I'm not sure why that happens. There. Okay, so we got the scores correct. And I just need to fix my star system here. There we go. So there we go. Fixed it. All right, we should be good to go here. Harshan playing Begat on top there, and I'm pretty sure Brian is definitely going to be able to play a bingo with his very, very balanced tiles here. So he could be... Oh! Crazy. Oh my god. So all the different tiles that Brian had, he quickly sees that he could play unaborted through BO. An absolutely crazy play. 98 points. I think most would have simply played a 7-letter word there, but a great, great play by Brian threw BO on the board. That is an absolute beauty on his part. So let me just get this second game started here. So Folia leaving AR, begat, and then unrated on the rack. Oh, begat was in, it was slid over. Okay. I wonder what would have happened if Harshan played begat 2 squares to the right, which is kind of an interesting thought experiment of, does that save you a lot of pain for playing there? Sorry, I gotta. All right, we'll start running the timers a little more accurately here. Harshan playing Kui. So he's at an early deficit, and their Q again coming to bedevil him. Ivied. Brian considering playing either Ivied for better balance or just Vide, setting up his I hook, both of which are intriguing options, but I think he can probably do better. So one nice option, if he wants to open a little bit less, would be Fairy here. He could get a lot of those vowels off. That scores quite well. It leaves the V, which is never something you want. And if he wants to incur a little risk, he could even play voice or voicer up here. Not sure that is that advisable, certainly at a scoring advantage as Brian has. He is up in game position here. You probably don't want to be opening triple lanes like that. So something like video does seem a lot cagier and warranted in this situation. Much safer, much less downside risk. Makes a lot of sense. So back to Harshan here at an early deficit. Has to figure out what he wants to do. And I think everything's looking good. Brian has his star, etc. Ooh, and the first blank. Wow. So Harshan's focus may be tested here with Brian about to jump out to an even bigger lead. He's got Hollier in a couple of different spots. Here it's going to score a ton, but if that spot somehow gets blocked, he still has it here. In addition to maybe heavier hitting stuff like Eucharist through the C. So there's definitely going to be bingos that Brian can find on his next turn. And that's sort of a focus check. Harshan has extremely good ability to lock in and not worry too much about deficits in a match and things of that nature. He's very, very focused. But that is going to test his ability to not be demoralized and continue to make really solid plays, realizing that Brian is going to be in commanding position to go up 2-0. He's probably going to be happy that the match is best of 7 instead of best of 5 if he gets out to an early deficit of 2-0. So Harshan considering playing motif here. I am curious about, he's trying different positionings. I think maybe the best positioning would be here because you set up a spot for your cue. I think this seems clearly best if he thinks of it. If you draw another I, you're getting a huge play. So I'm not sure if that's a missed opportunity. And there we see the blanks again coming out at a similar time. So yeah, interesting positioning on motif there. Maybe there's some element of this that I'm not appreciating, but Brian is going to quickly play Hollier for 82. He may evaluate other positionings for this word. Yeah, this is definitely the play for him. One of these spots, it scores a lot less in another spot on the board. For example, playing it here with who is just significantly less. So, yeah, this puts Harshan in a bind for sure. He is down huge. That being said, he does have very, very good tiles on his rack right now, with the exception of that Q. If he could just get that off in short order, he would be very happy. There isn't an obvious way to do that. In fact, it certainly seems like he should be looking at playing something here with his M. That's going to score really, really well. Sorry about that, folks. You probably could hear that. So Harshan inverting his H and M. There we go. 52 points. Maybe he draws something really, really good with that Q. That is going to be his play of meh for 52, leaving EQZ blank. Not a lot of help coming for his Q there. But if you could just get that Q off, you're close to... You could have a bingo like Warzone on your rack all of a sudden. Not that that would play anywhere productively. So Brian's early flurry has him up by 100 points plus whatever he's able to get on this move right now. But Harshan, if he could just get that Q off soon, he needs to get it, ASAP. He has a lot of other good stuff that could see him storm back into the game. So we will see. Interesting. Exalt. Okay, that's just, I think Brian is realizing maybe he doesn't want to put that E out in the triple lane here, but actually it's not the easiest thing in the world for him to play his X and avoid opening new space on the board. I feel like maybe my favorite play that does that is just playing EAU, and right as I say that, Brian coming to the same realization that this gets rid of 3 vowels and my X doesn't hook with anything. It doesn't score incredibly well, but he's drawn nicely again. More good tiles. And it definitely has Brian on the verge of potentially bingoing again. He has Taylors on the rack. Sleotar, that is going to fit. So it seems like we're going to see another bingo from Brian that could put this game out of reach, even though Harshan has a lot of good stuff on the rack right now. It's just brutal to leave the Q again. That's just not what he wants to do. Yeah, he's sort of shaking his head as if to say that very same thing, that he's not happy with keeping the Q any longer than necessary. So, tough one here. I guess you kind of have to stay the course and just continue to play high-scoring plays, leaving the Q just to make sure that you're close. But could this be... Is this an exchange situation? Do you just play Nerds here, leaving QW blank, which, that hurts. So Brian has Sleotar set up. Do you play Quern? This is about the only thing that gets the friggin' Q off the rack, which is so... You gotta get it one way or another, I think. Whether you exchange or play this. The nice thing about this, I suppose, is that it's hard to see Brian blocking this unless he sacrifices playing a bingo here. I don't think Tonsillar has any anagram worth noting. So Harshan taking a sacrifice to open the triple, block off, or sorry, I should say open the bottom of the board. And we'll see what Brian does. Oh, he's testing whether Begat takes an S, which it doesn't. That would be nice. But Sleotar is going to play there. And Harshan seeing that if he could just get an E out in space, he would be able to play Vowelize. Oh, look at this, though. This A is going to get absolutely hammered. But does Harshan have to use a blank in order to do that? Yeah, another bingo as Harshan breathes in. That's going to give back huge plays, but unfortunately, burning the blank to do so is going to be that is a tough price to pay, because you really, really want to use that Z and keep the blank if at all possible. But the only way he's going to be able to do it is to burn his blank in this spot. Now, that being said, he's going to get 90 points to do that. He will get a ton of points. But, oh, interesting suggestion. Does he just play Whiz? Sacrificing a ton of points, but keeping that blank. With the open triple, I think you have to do it and hope that somehow Brian does not block this N, and that you get one or two cracks to hit that triple that you need so badly here. I like that idea. I like the idea. Another possibility is, do you consider playing Vow so that you can then draw into VIZO plays going across visors? That certainly hits really hard, but it's probably okay to just play something there now. So this is a tough one for sure. Maybe the point of a play like this, a point of a play like Vow, is to create a huge amount of tension on the board. Either you're going to get a Z play, hopefully, on your next turn that keeps the blank in hand after a play like this, or you're going to potentially get a triple with the Z in it. So there is some huge upside after a play like that. Whiz seems like a perfectly reasonable play as well, just continuing to leave the lower triple open, keep the blank. This play makes a ton of sense. So Whiz is the choice. I think this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, what triples does it draw into? Not sure. Two N's on Harshan's rack now. Not what he wants to see in order to play through the N at the base of the board. And Brian is going to waste no time blocking that spot. This is a big sacrifice, because Wizard here, using his ARD, would have scored 59. I think he had a D. Yeah, he was thinking about playing Sparged. So Wizard available for 59. Instead, Brian playing for 27. But it makes sense that he would do that, because the triple is the most salient threat to him here. So tough sequence. That lifeline is now blocked. There is Nigel Richards out there. There is one playable bingo for Harshan. I would not say that it's about to give him great winning chances in this game. There is one playable bingo. Can anybody spot it? If so, I'll be very impressed. I have it here on Quackle ready to show you. As soon as he commits. All right, so Vino is the play for Harshan. Back over to Brian. The playable bingo for Harshan was Novenial. This does not give him very good chances in the game, but that would have been certainly very stylish. Vino is one of his stronger plays available outside of Novenial. But yeah, that would have been a bit much for most of us to come up with that. So back to Brian. He's considering playing Doc or Docs. This makes a ton of sense. Block off that V. Once again, the triple is the only way. If you're Brian, you can really lose your grip on this game in a hurry. And it's back to Harshan. He should be able to bingo here, but it's getting too late in the game. It's hard to see how, even with 2 bingos, might take 3 bingos, and there's just not enough time. But if you're Harshan and you had to wish for Brian to have a certain set of tiles, something like this would be what you want him to have. This is going to slow him down, and maybe you can draw something great on your next turn. So let me cut to Harshan's board. He's going to play Outland for 77. That is his highest scoring bingo by a solid margin. And Brian with 7 consonants, and look at that. Look at this draw. Reading for Harshan. Incredible. So another bingo set to go down. That's going to be extremely difficult to impossible to block. Does Brian exchange here and potentially get hit with another bingo at the top of the board? It could happen. This would be insane to see any kind of a comeback here. Players looking at their tracking. Let's go to the 2-board view. You can see Harshan wanting to play Reigned at the top of the board here. You could play Reading as well in that spot. Sorry for the score looking like that. Not sure what happened here. Seems to change position every game somehow. Not sure how. But that's all right. We got it set now. So, yeah, we are going to see an exchange. Exchanging 6 tiles is Brian. Oh, and a much better draw for him. So, a huge draw for Brian to be able to threaten Stains. That is going to get blocked. Sliatars and Stains is now going to get blocked here. But the general flexibility of the tiles that Brian just drew should be enough to carry him home, even though Harshan's going to get pretty darn close with this play. It seems insane that this game is even going to be close. Harshan thinking about which tile do I want to put in the triple lane, the G or the D. He's going to go ahead and put that D there. Not sure I can suss out which of those two is better than the other. But after this play, it's all of a sudden it is going to be extremely close on the scoreboard. But we know Harshan is very, very likely to draw. Just look at his perspective here, right? He's looking at these tiles, 4 vowels and 12 consonants. Actually, is that even correct? Where's the 4th vowel? Is the Y getting categorized as a vowel? Either way, the only vowel left for Harshan to draw, there's 1 E remaining. That's it. So he's going to settle on Reading, and you can see all of a sudden he is down by 8 points, which is completely insane. But, oh, Stains still actually does fit with ST. I forgot. You can still play it. You can play Stains here. And I'm pretty sure Brian is going to look at these tiles and know he is home free. Although Harshan did draw the 1 vowel that was left in the bag, Brian should be able to just play Stains if he wants it. He can also play Wizzens for 56 as an extension of Wiz. So Harshan with an incredible surge back in this game to make it close, but he needed one more really good draw, and Brian got what he needed here to finish this one off and get another win in this game. Wow, who would have thought this one would be closer? Closer than the first one. Maybe it's not going to end up being closer than the first one when Brian eventually bingos here. So he's thinking it over. He's looking. Yeah, good point. You do have to consider what happens if you draw stick tiles. Great point by Phil in the chat. He's got to think, what happens to me if I draw unplayable tiles? You could definitely be in huge trouble in a stick endgame. Where do you play that J? Where do you play that C? Great point. You can play the C with arc and sit, but the J could be impossible to play if you draw another clunky consonant along with it. So very, very interesting. Got to think about that for sure. And for that reason, Wizzens keeping a vowel in reserve in the form of the A, that could be a safer play. Going up by more than enough. You're still up by a ton. Wizzens would score. Oh, yeah. Right, stain. The board after stains, of course, would have the A here, but then this spot gets blocked. I wonder if there's some play going down that blocks both ya. Nah, probably not. I don't think geometrically it doesn't seem possible. So this would be really impressive to see Brian go ahead and play Wizen's and identify this as the way that he can avoid being stuck with certain tiles in the bag. But as we see, Harshan has those tiles, and after either the bingo from Brian or Wizen's from Brian, he is actually going to draw the S. The S is the last tile in the bag. Ooh, look at this. This is a really nice idea. Just passing everything up. This feels scary to do. I guess if you draw an S, you are threatening unplay it. Wow, look at that. That is very, very patient on the part of Brian to go ahead and just play for only 12 in such a close game. He's going up by 20. That is very confident of a play, to be sure, to do that. Just realizing that you've got enough firepower to fight your way through this, which is true. He does, but that is a great level of confidence on his part. So, yeah, oh, ghastness. Yes. So threatening this play, ghastness as an out bingo, which I don't necessarily think Harshan can afford to worry about blocking that. He just has to figure out a way, if there is one. I mean, he was considering playing twip right here just to be able to keep the vowel on his rack. This scores 25, and it actually gives him the lead. And maybe he just has to hope to draw another vowel from the bag, and that Brian is really stuck with a bunch of S's but only one vowel. Now he's going to go ahead and play deject. 32 points. There really isn't much that confers any winning chance in this game. But yeah, deject is going to be the play. Oh, there's also vastness there. So astness playing on either side of the board. 86 points on the left and 80 on the right. So after a surprisingly close game, very, very close given how big of an early lead it was. But I'm just going to unmute myself on the Zoom for a second and just say that, yeah, we can go ahead and launch into game 3 with Harshan starting the rematch. So there we go. Let me reset the clocks. It's going to be back to Harshan. He draws a blank. That's good news for him. And I got to give Brian another star, as I see. So 3 A's. Are we looking at an exchange? Are we looking at just playing here? So I'll start Harshan's clock. Brian getting the second win of the match. So Brian with a 2-0 start, but this is a best of 7. So we're about to head into game 3 here. And yeah, 2 very interesting games. A lot of weird Q positions in both games. I feel like the Q has been a major albatross in both of the first 2 games. So Harshan is just looking carefully, just trying to make 100% sure that he's not missing a high probability bingo that he may have here. But yeah, it's either just playing off your 2 A's. I guess you could consider something like Anna or Area. I'm probably exchanging AA here. And he is going to do exactly that. So over to Brian. Oh, look at that. Kranzes. Wow. That could be huge depending on where. And he's got it lined up instantly. So this could start game 3 off with a serious bang if he's able to get that down. So that is certainly what Harshan is wanting after the tough start in games 1 and 2. Brian is probably going to play something here. He's got enough stuff that he can play. AENR blank is a good leave, 100%. That is, and why is it a good leave? It's exactly for the reason that you see. Why is AENR blank a good leave? Because it can absorb draws like KZ and still give you a bingo. KZ should not be a bingo success draw. But when your leave is that good, it expands the range of possibilities into those clunkier tiles that normally wouldn't yield a bingo. All of those, many of those, start to come back into play. So what to do if you're Brian? Are you playing IE? Or are you realizing that after a short exchange from your opponent that maybe I don't want to play an E, an A, an I out in space? It looks like he has Hoya set up. Hoya or Ahoy. He certainly is still going to get bingoed on after either of those, but it is going to limit the damage substantially compared to what he would incur after exchanging. So it looks like he is going to get set to play Ahoy for 20. He's picking this over Hoya. It doesn't hook with an S. So that is a big, big deal because now you can't get hit with Kranzes, which would score huge if Ahoy did, in fact, take an S. Harshan is going to make absolutely sure of that. There's no penalty for checking in the Void Challenge system. And now you just have to, oh my God, if he plays, so he is playing Kranzes in the careful spot. So he could play it here for many more points. And if he did, he would have gotten tripled with Heediest. So Harshan sacrificing 9 points here. And boy, is he going to be glad that he did that when he sees what Brian's rack actually was. So that is a phenomenal play. Oh, sorry. The scores are off again. Let me get that fixed for y'all. But yeah, that is excellent timing for sure. And very quickly, Brian plays Hide. That is definitely a very solid play. Cover up that triple. Makes all the sense in the world. And it's back to Harshan. I'll stop his clock for a second as I didn't run it as I'm fixing these scores. But yeah, Hide definitely correct. And ooh, look at that. That's a nice little, look at the shape of this board. This seems definitely, this is a unique shape. This looks like some kind of a insect or a Space Invaders. Doesn't this look like a Space Invaders creature? It's perfectly symmetrical. I can't remember seeing this shape very often. But yeah, look at that. Brian with the second blank. So he's going to be able to, he has Fester blank, which definitely seems like it should bingo somewhere. And he's seeing the best spot. Only one spot that's better. And look at that. Quickly, decisively playing Softeners. Very, very nice play. Harshan probably thinking that he was close to, if he could just get an L and maybe some other stuff, he would be bingoing off of that. But no, the bingos coming back for Harshan. So another close game in the early going. The symmetry of our board is ruined, but that's okay. I can't blame Brian for playing his only bingo above 7 letters. He had other stuff, such as hefters right here. So hefters with SOH going across, but softeners scoring significantly better. So very, very impressive by Brian there. And Harshan is about to play his highest scoring play, and this looks like a really, really good option for him. Veganic for 38. Let's see what he draws. Close to something good there. Not quite. There's not, I don't think, like, enclamps is not a word. Oh, hold on. Gotta see what Brian's getting set to do. He was trying to see what he can underlap with down there. 3 O's. So very, very weak draw for Brian on his replenishment draw here. So that is going to slow him down a bit, with Harshan having a little bit better balance in, well, really not that much better balance. You can see he's got the reverse problem of too many consonants, but I think his consonants are going to allow him to score a little bit better. And Brian thinking about playing Boo. I guess the nice thing about this play is it does set up his N. He has an N that can go across, but he draws another U. Oh, tenuous. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. That's crazy. That is crazy. There, with those brutal tiles, he sees it quickly, no delay, and he's about to put it on the board. Crazy. He gets that green mark. Unbelievable. What a draw. These tiles look so bad, but in fact, they are going to allow a potential bingo coming back. That is crazy. So, yeah, what do you do here if you're Harshan? You were about to get... That's going to be a bad beat if you're Harshan, to see those terrible tiles turning into a 77-point bingo already on the heels of having lost the first 2 games. That is going to be... I can personally say I would be a little tilted to see that. So if anyone can stave off that feeling and continue to stay focused, it's definitely Harshan. He has a really, really strong mental composition. Of course, I mean, everything I've seen from Brian suggests that he also is absolutely relentless and doesn't seem to let tough draws or tough game situations bother him at all. So we're going to see potentially in camp for 24. That is going to be Harshan's play, and I don't think we're going to see much delay at all for tenuous. Oh, man, and a brutal, brutal draw for Harshan. Another rough swing as he draws 6. That's crazy. Harshan left LS, so he draws 5 consonants. So, ouch. That is a tough one, for sure. So, yeah, how is he going to get in the way of that? Playing unclamp? Is that what he's supposed to do? Maybe. I mean, it seems a little... It seems like in camp is perfectly reasonable. You've got an S in hand and you're setting up an S hook without one on the board. There is no good S hook. You want to set one up, and camp looks like a great play for Harshan. So I don't want to say he should play unclamp to block the S. I know we're just spitballing here and not necessarily saying he for sure should have played unclamp or anything like that, but I think in camp is a great play. He had no S hooks on the board prior to that. Yes, you do have the S of softeners, but with S in hand, you want to create somewhere to play it. And leaving the bottom open has cost him through really no fault of his own. So now what do you even do? Are you looking at an exchange here? Yeah, he's going to go ahead and exchange down to RS and drawing only one vowel again. And back to Brian. He quickly plays Yao for 37, leaving the Q on his rack, and it goes back over to Harshan quickly. Seems like a solid play. Patience by Brian, keeping the Q on that rack, and he goes up by 100. So we just saw Harshan come back from an even bigger deficit than this. But yeah, that's tough. Feeling Harshan's pain right now, says Phil. I agree. I feel a little bit of pain on his behalf. Brian's played fantastically well, though. Can't take anything away from him in that regard. And Harshan plays Brap. There we go. There's some vowels. Dilates on his rack. That's going to be a big deal if he can get that down. So, Brian with just the one vowel, and again, that Q, I feel like we could be seeing a very similar situation here if Brian continues to press on somehow and not play that Q. Maybe he's going to take this opportunity to exchange as well. Yeah, he is. He's going to go ahead and exchange, leaving RS. He's thinking about leaving his vowel, OTRS. Okay, so he's leaving. Ooh, look at that. And he draws rosiest and all the anagrams for that. So just in the nick of time. And it seems likely that whatever Brian draws, he should be able... Yeah, does he have mega overlaps here? He probably does. So Harshan getting down dilates to temporarily take the lead, but it is going to go right back. And look at the tiles. I got to check our... I'm just kidding here, folks, but I just got to check. I'll check our tile exchange algorithm. Just a joke. I know that much smarter people than I have tested that ad nauseum. Wow. So Brian is going to be looking. The crazy thing is, I thought for sure that with all the anagrams of this, rosiest, tossier, trioses, cirroset, rosties, all kinds of stuff, I would have thought there would be something here, but there isn't. There isn't an overlap there. So Brian's going to have to at least look. But his best play is actually here. His best play is alongside with Cirroset here. That's as good as he can do. Crazy thing about that is it leaves a giant J hook, but Harshan does not have the right tiles to hit that spot. So pretty brutal if that is the play. So Brian has a lot to sift through here. He's, oh yeah, sorties, sorites, stories. I forgot all these easy ones. And he's looking, he's thinking, how could I not have a play alongside? And it feels like with all those anagrams, you definitely should have one. Oof. So if you miss Cirroset with all these parallel plays, which I feel like that's the trickiest one, you do at least have steroids here. Don't take that one out of context. So at least you have steroids. That's the beauty of Scrabble. Just kidding. Yeah, that's so you can see Brian is going through each of his anagrams. He's trying to see which of my plays will actually fit, because it seems like for sure there should be a big one here. And we'll see what he's able to come up with. He's got a good amount of time to work through this. So Harshan battling his way back. All right, so we are going to see steroids here. So this is 8 fewer points than the overlap in the other spot. So a slight miss for Brian, maybe the first, miss by him in quite a bit. And that is going to allow Harshan to, oh, nice play. Look at that, gerbil. And look at Brian's draw. All those vowels that Harshan was struggling to draw find their way onto Brian's rack. Wow. Great play. Great play by Harshan. Leaving VQG, but for 62 points, you will definitely do that here. And now Brian is going to exchange and draw much, much better. But this is definitely anybody's game after that exchange. Wow, crazy. So exchange for Brian. Harshan getting set to play faves, just covering up that top triple. I wonder if he has a particular reasoning behind. I'll just run a couple of seconds off Harshan's clock here. I think his reasoning for playing faves there is I don't want to open any floaters. If I play here, Brian can respond with bingos. Whereas if I play here, it's way tougher to hit these words for bingos. That's probably what he's thinking. So, good idea by Harshan. Back over to Brian, who admittedly, even though his tiles are bingo prone, doesn't look like he has one here. He's definitely close, very close. And Harshan still with the Q to deal with. There is one U lurking in the bag. So another very, very tense game here. Brian is going to play just go and drawing pretty well. Back to Harshan here. Keeping that A on the rack was definitely intentional, realizing that there were not that many other ones still to come. And I'm not sure, even with Brian's good draw, Harshan quickly playing chin. So that play has a double value for Harshan. Really, really nice idea by him. Playing chin for 24. The double value of this play is that it also blocks the last really good sevens line on the board. Yeah, I guess you can still fit with a ton of overlaps here, but chin perfectly obstructs the last really good one. So I don't actually think Brian had a 7-letter word ready to go down in that spot, but in many, many cases he would, and Harshan just blocked it. So very, very nicely done. This is crazy. Harshan up by 40 in this game. It felt like after Tenuius and Harshan holding 7 consonants that was just going to be it here. But he has fought his way back into a pretty good position. But Brian still has very good bingo tiles. He's got spots on the board open where he can score well. There's a couple different triples open. The S of steroids, primary among them. That's going to allow him to trim the 40-point deficit quite a bit and open the board while he's at it and force Harshan into some tough blocking plays. So this is definitely still very, very close. Something like anything putting an M here is going to score well and open the board back up. So Brian can play items. He can play leams, Leams. Let's go back to the main view so we can see what does the unseen tiles look like from his perspective. Pretty balanced. Ooh. That is a very interesting play, keeping a good leave with an A in it. So there is an A unseen. There is one A unseen to Brian here. If Harshan does not have that A, this is a pretty annoying play to block. That being said, maybe if you play MI and Harshan just plays something here into the S, he scores quite well and blocks a lot of the AMI hooking plays. So let's see. So very aggressive play, gambling that Harshan does not have an A, which he doesn't. But he's going to be able to block these sorts of play. Oh, man, look at how good the tiles are now. So Harshan getting set to play E-News. Is this going to put him up by enough? He's already up by 25. He's going to go up by more after this. But bingos for Brian. They actually, I'm just looking around. Elaterin doesn't score that well through this E. Tree nail doesn't fit. Internal doesn't score that well. This is actually, Brian is not necessarily going to have really good scoring bingos after this, and they will empty the bag and give Harshan, well, Harshan will have a full rack, and Brian would have one tile. In news, there are 5 tiles in the bag. Harshan getting set to potentially use 4 of them. And that would make Brian's bingos give him just one tile in the end game. It's possible with a good enough scoring play that Harshan will simply just outrun in the end game, given that Brian's bingos aren't that good. Elaterin, Tree Nail, and Taylor. This is pivotal. Such a big difference for Harshan here, and he is going to go ahead and make the play of E-News. So this puts Brian in a tough spot. What is his best bingo? He has to do his best to find a good scoring bingo, and his best one is Elaterin through the E for 65. Doesn't feel like it scores enough, and Harshan has pretty flexible tiles that he should be able to play a lot of in the end game, potentially. Wow. He has gloated on his rack, first of all. But wow, look at this. Look what Harshan can do. He can play Geoidal for 30. This feels like that should be enough if he sees it. Look at that. That would be so, so nice. I feel like that is likely to do the trick for him. So, wow, we could be seeing an epic win for Harshan with his back against the wall, not literally speaking or figuratively speaking, because he could lose 2 more games here. But yeah, we're going to see Elaterin. 65. Bryant's going to go for it. There's no real need to delay. I don't know if like playing one tile is ever going to help you. If Harshan has a good outrunning play, it's still going to probably outrun. I don't know. What are you hoping for here if you're Brian? Is it possible that playing one tile, I guess you just can't really win after this. Maybe you have to play one tile. But Elaterin is going to be the play. I don't think I would have done any different. It's back to Harshan. He's got a good amount of time to think this through. He's down by 4, and Brian has a U. You definitely have to feel like this is your game to win if you're Harshan here. The U is simply not going to score that well, and you've got your pick of a bunch of high-scoring plays. So we are going to see a very impressive comeback win for Harshan, who just battled incredibly hard to even have a chance in this game. How do players see the clock? I'm operating a clock right here that they are seeing on our Zoom call. At some point in the near future, we are actually going to also build a timed mode into the game, and that is going to make my life a lot easier to run events like this, because we will just have the players rev up their timed mode games, and there will be no need to operate all of this stuff. So look at this. Geoidal is the play that was mentioned. Another that you in the chat, all of you in the chat mentioned, Gelada into the A of Faves, also easily enough to get the job done. So this is, and true to form, Harshan is so impressive. Seeing his options, he's doing some calculations to see which of these works out better. Just making sure that Brian's best play with the U is going to be the same in both cases, and that you're not giving him anything better with one play or another. Very, very nicely done. So yeah, what a game. What a game. That's what you get when you get 2 really good Scrabble players in one place and you get them to play a bunch of games. If the Scrabble gods can give some... The draws have been weird in this match so far. It doesn't feel like... It feels like each player has been prone to get some absolutely crippling draws at bad times, but certainly it feels like Harshan has had some brutal ones. It also feels like Brian has made some incredibly nice plays. Softeners in this game, unaborted in a previous game when I feel like most players would have slapped down a 7-letter word for 30 fewer points. So level of play, the standard of play, really high in this one. And Harshan going back to Gelada here for 33. Hasn't committed it yet. Go to the two board view and just see when he actually hits this thing. There we go. Hits it. 33 points for him. Brian's best play is Nug, and he has identified that. And down it goes. And that's going to be it for this one. Harshan winning game 3, a thriller for sure. So what we had agreed upon, I'm going to unmute on Zoom. I will unmute and just say what we had agreed upon was that the players would get a break after round 3. And depending on how the two of you are feeling, I think we'll go ahead and take that break. So you can get up, get a glass of water. Incredible game so far. I'm going to do the same. And we'll be back with Brian taking the first move in game 4 in just a couple of minutes. So don't go anywhere, folks. Couple minutes, round 4 starting shortly. Okay, we are back from break here. Brian is ready to kick off game 4. Brian, whenever you're ready, let's get this thing started. And here we go. Muting on Zoom here. And, oh, Brian's going to quickly exchange. I feel like the first time we see a cue, when we see a cue played productively, that's going to be the first time for that. So Brian with a 6 tile exchange and drawing a blank. I feel like the blanks and the cues have been strange in this match for sure. But let me make sure that we are squared away here. So it was something like pass, start Harshan's clock. And yeah, what to do if not Dits? If you're Harshan, it seems definitely worth playing as opposed to counter exchanging. Dits does not take a S hook, so you like that after your opponent's exchange, and that is going to be the play. Seems quite reasonable. He's played it in an interesting spot, I would say, though. Look at the positioning of that. Brilliant. So Harshan kept an X on his rack, and he set up a spot for him to play it. He also drew a Y as well. So that's really interesting. Positioning, very instructive that Harshan would make that play. As we got to get the scores corrected again, which I'll do. There we go. 28. Is this? Yeah, this is right. Okay. I think this is right anyway. I probably have to fix it here too. So we might as well do that now as well while we're thinking about it. There. So back to Brian. He's got that first blank and good bingo tiles. He can play oftener, and that seems reasonable. There are other options here. He could even just play foe if he wants. He could just play foe. That's really interesting to sacrifice that many points. But if oftener is one of your bingos and the other one is thereof, that's another one. So both of those open the triple back. Harshan definitely praying for an S to somehow come out in space, preferably not with a bingo. Of course, you don't want your opponent to bingo, but if you did get one, you would be able to play Syrinxes here, which would be tremendous. That would be a lot of fun. I have every expectation that Harshan would find that one. But yeah, either way, tricky situation here for Brian. He is going to play Fetider. So rather than open up unnecessarily, he's going to play for many fewer points, blocking a little bit the X spot, but not that much. But a 65-point bingo, if you're Harshan, you can live with that. That's not the end of the world. Especially because, as he has set up YEX, he can play YEX right here for a very, very good score, leaving a good bingo leave on a relatively open board. So, definitely think this is still going to be very close. I wonder, you can also play YEX here for a similar score. Is there any reason to do this necessarily? Probably not. I think given that Harshan has really good tiles in reserve after either of these two choices, you would want to make a play that leaves the board more open, and Ditsy and Yex is the option that does that. Why, if you're holding such nice bingo tiles, would you block the E that you may need to bingo through? Well, if the scores were reversed, maybe that's what you would do, but Harshan is the one trailing. He's even thinking about playing Rexines, leaving the Y. Rexines would score 56, leaving just the Y. 47 feels like enough with that nice bingo leave to play. So And now he's even thinking about Nixie potentially. I don't know exactly. Is he thinking about playing Nixie and Ditzy? That's not, just to keep the E. That doesn't seem possible. Yeah, I think he's correctly come back to Yex. We like that play for him. Let's see what he draws. Not great, but ooh, look how quickly Brian doesn't even waste time seeing a very, very nice play on top. The only blemish on this play is that it does not use his V, but in every other way, it's very strong. And Harshan with Warrison on his rack, that plays. That plays here at a minimum. So we are likely to see a bingo come down in short order as soon as Harshan is satisfied at not having anything better in a different spot. And this is going to get him back in the lead. There is no other spot where this fits. Nicely done. Got to trust your gut that none of the letters of fetider have an 8-letter word available, and that is true. They don't. So, back to Brian. The nice thing, oh my gosh, the nice thing about... So, quickly, Brian playing Waved, that is a really nice play. 52 points. However, as Lewis pointed out in the chat, vaunted here, maybe the one saving grace of keeping the V after Brian's previous play of Zoe is that if you somehow draw a V6, it's going to score really well. Waved 52, Brian playing it quickly in this 15-minute game because he's confident that a 52-point play using my W and V is likely to be best. But vaunted there for many, many more points would have been the way to go. And Harshan is about to play Ionium. Really nice play by him to use 4 vowels and 1 consonant to balance his rack. And there is the cue again. The cue continues to bedevil the players in this game. It's been exchanged a bunch. We just have not really seen the cue played in a productive manner yet, pretty much. And let me make sure we're seeing. I think Brian put rectile on the board just to make absolutely sure that that wasn't an option for him. I'm sure he would not have played that in a standard game. Here he's got the J. I'm sure he's thinking, yeah, can I play ejectile or something like that? He's thinking about playing eject. Seems reasonable. I would say, though, JOL is such a good balancing play. Just look at the other letters that he has of recite. They're so nicely balanced. You've now got a sevens lane to end in a vowel. Maybe you can get stuff down off of this M, but also the letters of fetider can still be options for you after you just play JOL. Jilt, also very solid looking option that's suggested here. This would be great as well. This looks very solid. So a couple nice choices here. Haven't seen Brian put either of those on the board yet. Yeah, hard to believe there's something better than waved. Absolutely. 52 pointer with all those overlaps. Something's got to give, right? When you are condensing, you know, we play Scrabble in over the board tournaments at 25 minutes per side. And if you're going to tell these players who voluntarily, they wanted to play more games. So they said, if we lower the clocks from 20 minutes to 15, can we play more games? I said, sure, why not? Let's do it. Jot potentially is going to be the play. I think JOL is going to be a little better in terms of leave value. Your expected bingo might be a little better by playing that L, but it's close. These are still very good bingo leaves. Jot is going to be the play. Real hair splitter between those two. I think I prefer Joel slightly. And Harshan is getting set to, yeah, he's going to go ahead. This seems really good. There are still 3 U's to come if you're Harshan. Are we going to see QU be on a player's rack for the first time? Maybe. This also blocks recoiler double double that was getting set to go down. This E of Feditor was about to give Brian a massive double double bingo, but Amy blocking that play in the nick of time. So very canny play by Harshan there. He is. It's not so much that he wants to necessarily block this board at a big lead or anything like that. I think it's more that he wants to keep things closed while he has this cue that he's not really able to deal with adequately. I don't want to leave the board any opener than it has to be. I want to figure out a way to get my cue off the rack, and then I'll think about making board openings when my tiles are better, is likely what he's thinking there. Burn through some tiles to get some help. He has Korma. You could see Korma getting set to maybe play through this A, and that's going to come at a good time as Brian plays Crow and draws the blank. So definitely likely to see a bingo come down from Brian next turn. I do feel like there's got to be something. Telferic is about to get blocked by Korma once again. So Harshan wasting no time whatsoever and drawing decently. But if we go to Brian, he's going to have to buckle down now. Potentially, if he sees Telferic, that would have gone down immediately. But he's definitely got some other stuff that's going to play. I had seen Fiercely through the C that still just barely fits, but he has even better. He has better. Online games should be played with shorter time controls anyway. Absolutely. That's definitely true. A lot of stuff that's being done for you to play on the app. So let's have a look here. Oh, crazy. Scrutiny. So Harshan is basically praying that Brian not bingo up there. Unfortunately for him, that is exactly what's going to happen. Harshan with Scrutiny getting set to play through the C. That would be huge, huge for him to get down. But Brian is extremely likely to be playing up there. Is there any chance that Brian would try to defer a bingo and play something like Phi here to hit something harder on a subsequent turn? I don't think so. I don't think he would do that. But there is an argument to be made that a play like Phi is actually pretty strong, because if you can draw into a play from the C on your next turn, it's going to hit way harder than any of the available bingos now. So it's not impossible, but we're going to go ahead and see Felice here be played. This is a tough, tough blow for Harshan, but he's still okay. He's not down by that much here. Felice here, the play with that blank E, and it blocks Scrutiny, which is a tough break for sure, but he's still going to be okay. Look at a play like Ryu right here. That's really strong looking. Nicely balanced. Sets up your S again with a good leave. Evens the score. If you get the next bingo down, you're still going to be okay in situations like that. So Harshan is still, of course, he wants to play Scrutiny, but I think he should be okay to make a play that he's happy with here. He's thinking about playing tie-in. Now it looks like maybe Yurt. So I think he's definitely looking in this spot. Meanwhile, Brian wants to play the very amusing past tense word of pooped probably here in this very same spot with the OXO hook right here. That, yes, that is valid. A lot of archaic words. Like that lurking in the dictionary, and these players know a huge portion of those. So I think Harshan has come to grips with this being a solid play. Admittedly, this is the last R, so the R is a good bingo tile, and if there was a similar play in that spot, keeping the R, he would love to do that, but this is a very good option for him arguably his best option, and not a great draw for him. But it's still way too close to call. And this game really feels like it's going to come down to who is able to get the next bingo down. Both players have a nice nucleus of tiles here. Brian may be getting set to play putt. Maybe he'll just play putt, put with 1T, leaving the relatively balanced post as a leave. Instead, he's now maybe considering just playing pooped here. I'm going to try to say that without giggling or any other goofiness on my part. There we go. That is the play. 24 points. It's a solid one. If you're Harshan, you're happy to see a play that doesn't score a ton. But Agasted and Herd now threatening to come down. So we're saying that whoever gets the next bingo down in the game is going to be in commanding position, and Agasted plays right here with Herd, and you see Brian spotted it instantaneously. So that creates a very difficult situation for Harshan. How is he supposed to block that? He's the one trailing. He needs to keep these lanes open. And in so doing, in this situation, it seems very unlikely that he'll make a play blocking Agasted. So this could be a big moment for Brian as he grinds out towards his third win in the series. Again, this is a best-of-7 match between these two great players. First player to get 4 wins. That's what you're looking for. Brian with 2, Harshan with 1. With this game 4 still hanging in the balance. So if I'm Harshan, I don't know. I think I'm looking. I certainly want to play an I and an N. That would be the baseline that I want my play to accomplish. Would I have the stones to play something like Lipin here? Or is it possible that Harshan is going to play something like Lin or Nil here? The funny thing is that there is a huge difference between Lin and Nil in this situation. If he chooses to play Nil and Hurl, Agasted still fits. And if he chooses to play Lin and Hearn, it doesn't. Who could possibly suss that out? Why? Why would you think to do that? Tint, a perfectly reasonable play. That is going to be Harshan's option here, and we can imagine Agasted is going to take very, very little time to come onto the board. And down it goes. Tough one. Great play by Brian. Continues to play so well, missing next to nothing in this entire series. But that definitely puts Harshan in a major bind. Down by 100 all of a sudden. With no great way to do much here as we cut back to Harshan's view. The nice thing about Harshan's previous play of Tint is that it does put some tiles here that maybe you can draw into a bingo ending in ST if you have this last S in hand. There are now a couple of really tough lanes to hit right here as well. It's not going to be easy to play through the A or the G of Agasted, either A. But there's possibilities, I suppose. If you just play Harn right here, at least you keep your I, right? So he has HAN. It looks like maybe that's where he's going to go with these plays. The nice thing about keeping the I is that if you draw the E, you can get IEST bingos. So keeping the I, trying to draw an E, and draw the right stuff to hit a massive bingo to this T seems like what you're looking to do if you're Harshan. It's not a great plan, but it might be the best he's got right now. It's going to require something crazy to go down for him, as he is still going to be down quite a bit, but this seems the most natural to me. Not sure if anyone else out there sees something good, and Harn is going to be his play. 32-pointer. And Bryant's going to have a good look at the unseen tiles and try to figure out what is he supposed to block. Not a very good draw there for Harshan. So Brian looking to block as best he can. The unseen tiles here, I know they're a little small, but that is correct from Brian's POV right now. So he's still looking at a pool that has some decent bingo tiles, but also the K, the V, the B. It's not great. It's not too scary if I'm in his shoes. I might be just thinking if I just continue to score, put scoring pressure on from here on out, even the biggest bingos are not super likely to threaten me. I just want to keep the most flexible leave possible if I'm Brian, so that if I draw VUK or something like that, I'm still going to have some good plays to go with it. And he's thinking about playing Bigo for 25, which really does all the things that I just mentioned. The only scary thing about it is it leaves the C, which if you draw the V and some other high point consonants, it might not mesh the best with those. But I think this is a very good play. If this is where he goes with it, you could even just play beg and leave off the O just to ensure that you go into next turn with really good balance and a hook to use to dump some stuff if you need to. Either of those plays seem pretty good. So Brian in great shape here. Another option suggested of bong under pooped. This seems pretty good too. Seems very solid. Scores well. I guess the only negative is that before bong, there's really no good place to play a 7-letter bingo anywhere, and afterwards there suddenly is one. But all of those 7-letter bingos are going to give triples back in response, so you're not that upset about that. So I think it's a reasonable option. Brian plays Bigo. This seems quite solid to me. And back to Harshan, who's got 2 L's and 2 I's. Again, I feel like he just had a rack exactly like this when he played Tint. And he's navigating another very, very similar situation here with maybe he's thinking about playing Nail here, setting up Snail. That could be what he's going for. Could be a little bit annoying to block. It still leaves some stuff open. That does seem like what he's going to do, and he's going to hope that Brian does not have the last S, and in fact, he doesn't. And look at that draw for Harshan. Incredible. He left ILS and drew BKUV, arguably the 4 worst bingo tiles in the set, all at once. So that's just, what can you say? That's pretty rough. That is a rough one for sure. So yeah, hard to see, what exactly was Harshan supposed to do on Tint. Is he supposed to somehow find a way to play Lin and make sure that a Gasted gets blocked? That doesn't feel natural at all to me. I feel like you want to leave those lanes open. You're the one trailing. It's tough. Yeah, this has definitely been a tough series of draws for Harshan for sure. Brian's definitely had a few extremely poorly timed draws as well. He's also had a couple excellent draws at key times, and he's also played phenomenally. So I don't want to take anything away from Brian for sure. It's been an extremely high-level match. Very, very fun to watch. Very impressive. But it does seem like Brian, after that really bad draw by Harshan, he's just not going to have bingos anywhere, and that is what he needs to prolong his chances in this game. But hey, the nice thing is we got a best of 7, so while Brian is about to punch his ticket to a 3rd win here, Harshan still, all he's got to do, if he wins 3 games in a row, he'll win the match. And who would be surprised to see that? Harshan winning 3 games in a row definitely happened many, many times before and will happen many times since. And this could be one of those times. As Brian getting set to play Gale, not sure if he's responding to a particular threat. This still gives up Salukis on the bottom row, so I feel like if from his perspective, Harshan can have Salukis, and this just makes that play hit even harder. So I think this is definitely not an 100% winning play, because if you draw BV out of the bag, you just lose. But it is definitely going to win in this case. Harshan has a really fun play here. I'll cut to his view as he thinks it over. It is definitely not a winning play. Harshan's not going to win this game. But the best play in this endgame is really fun. I wonder if anybody has seen it yet. Very satisfying if he's able to spot this one. There we go. Lewis in the chat, first to shout it out. Bupkis. Bupkis through the P. That is a 52-point play, which is definitely ample style points for him. It looks like Harshan getting set to play his second best play of Buskin, which does all the same nice things, except it gives back a triple lane to play on for Brian, so it doesn't score as well and gives a triple back. Brian's already going to play Cena here off of G's, so that's not going to change too much whether Buskin is played or not. But yeah, Bupkis would be so fun to see played. It is fully academic. Harshan drew Bupkis towards down the stretch of this game, one could say. So it would be a fitting, descriptive play in a sense. Do you have a bingo? Nope, I've got Bupkis. Literally and figuratively. So we're going to head into round 5 straight away. There's no need for a delay. That's kind of one of the nice things about streaming a match as opposed to our normal tournament streams, is that you're just cutting from, we did just take a break, but apart from that, our short breaks, we know the players are ready. As soon as the previous game ends, they can just snap right into the next one. So, all right, Buskin is going to be the play. This is the second best play and would be a very, very solid play if not for the one more elegant play available. We are going to see Brian quickly play Acnes here. His best play, Cena off of the hook of G. But this is a perfectly solid play. And all right, that's going to be a third win for Brian here, and I'm going to unmute on Zoom, and I'm just going to say, because of the way the match has shaken out, we're just going to continue to alternate right now between who goes first. It'll be Harshan going first in game 5. If Harshan were to win that game, Brian will respond going first in game 6. So anytime you're ready, Harshan, let's get this thing rolling. All right, so Harshan needing to win from here on out. Gets a draw that he's happy with. No need to delay. He's going to go ahead and play Droners, making his blank a tile that is already captured by one of the other tiles on the board, and he draws Outages straight away. So is this a good omen? Is this an omen going forward? Are we going to see Harshan's tile drawing fortunes reversed in the next few games? We'll see. We shall see. Still plenty of match to go. Harshan is going to be very difficult to put away. We've seen him win so many big events in the UK and around the world, so nobody should be surprised. But again, making the blank a letter that is already reflected in some of the other letters that you are putting on the board, that's just good game sense. If you make your blank a different letter, potentially your opponent is going to make use of that one to play a bingo. So you could have played all kinds of other stuff, like wonders, for example, downers, let's say. But maybe your opponent bingos through that W. And why take that chance? So Brian playing Fjord. Very solid option for him. but it's going to go straight back to Harshan with outages on the rack. And at a minimum, he has outrages or outgasses, I believe, to the S of droners. There it comes. So another bingo coming down straight away. No real need to think too hard about this. This is a pretty defensive positioning. Outrages scoring lower than this. At least you get a few extra points from putting the G here. So outgasses, that's the best Harshan can do. And 2 bingos to start, staking him to a nice size lead here. Very nicely done. And a third one, potentially, getting set to go down and wreath to this E. Other bingos as well that aren't as solid, that don't reach the triple, but and wreath for 95. Harshan wasting no time whatsoever, seeing that word and potentially getting set to play his 3rd straight bingo to start this game. So, all right. We get this fixed. I don't know why this happens. It's so strange. It's in a different spot every time, but it's easy to fix. So I apologize once again for Brian's screen flickering. We weren't able to get that corrected. Harshan looking very nice, so that's good. But, oh, did I not give... Yeah, I got to give Brian his 3rd star. He just won a 3rd time here. So Brian needing just one more win to polish off this match and become the winner of the ABSP Masters Melee. But Harshan is not going to go quietly. 2 bingos to start with a 3rd on the way. And Brian with 2 I's and a U to deal with. No N to save him from mutinied or anything like that. So he's going to have to... I mean, I don't even see what he's supposed to do. It's going to be very unappealing, whatever that is. Looks like MIDI is going to be the play just to get the 2 I's off of the rack. That seems about as good as anything. Harshan need waste no time here. I guess Muti was also a possible play that could have been made. But blam, down comes in wreath. But Brian with the first blank, he is now down huge to start this game for sure. But he should be able to get a bingo down here and maybe start chipping away somewhere or other. That being said, Harshan with another solid draw. I don't think he has a bingo on this one, but he's got very flexible, balanced tiles and should be able to do something nice with that K somewhere or other. So looking good. Looking very good. Oh, it looks like he wants to play token right here. That would score quite nicely. Maybe there's some better spot for it, but that would be pretty solid. So let's go back to Brian's POV. Down huge in the early going. Let's hope Harshan didn't waste all of his karmic reserves from some of the tough draws in the first few games just on these moves. Oh, maybe he's going to try tokenage, which I don't believe is valid, but it's worth a try. I don't think so. I definitely don't think he would try that in an actual over-the-board game, but maybe he'll put it on the board just to see. I expect token here would be everything he wants to just continue to put scoring pressure on. So what should Brian do here? Timeout being suggested. Ooh, I got something wrong about some of the plays. Hold on. Let me fix this. Okay, should be correct again. Yeah, timeout. He's going to play Toutiest. Or at least he's thinking about it. Maybe he just put that on the board just to be sure. It could be at this score. Maybe you want to do that because you just want more crazy opening threats. If Harshan draws something terrible and cannot address the triple lane, maybe that's your ticket to get back in this game. I don't know. I mean, it's reasonable. I think timeout right here is also fine. You can just play timeout underneath M and C. And the board is still relatively open. I wouldn't say it's that open, but Brian has reason to be more aggressive here. This play putting E, S, and T all out in space. Those are very nice letters to add to the volatility that already exists on the board. But he's going back and forth with it. Now he's considering opening up an entirely different quadrant of the board here. Seems as good as anything, I guess. The bottom is already somewhat open. So, yeah, a lot of different choices that he could have gone with here, but I certainly think now we're very likely to see Harshan play well, I mean, he could just play okay up there. His first reaction was getting set to play Keto through the T, but that would be a solid play. He actually can play just okay here, leaving a very strong leave. Or he can even add his T and A, Octa. That seems pretty good. Any of these plays seem strong. Keto is going to be his play. This is perfectly solid to me. Octa, maybe just on the strength of scoring a little bit better. Could have been a smidge better than that, but very, very close between all of those plays. And not a good draw with the 3 O's for Brian here. So this is not looking like it's going to be Brian's game, and that's good news for two groups of people. Harshan fans and Scrabble fans that want more games in this match, right? No offense to Brian, but the more games Harshan can win from here on out, we get a longer and a longer match, and I feel like that's just going to add to the amount of content we get and the tension that we get in the match, and I think that's a win for all of us. OWO is the play, our recently added weird online cutesy slang word. Good way to get rid of a couple of O's. I didn't see if there was a good spot to play Woolly. I guess you could play Woolly. Hold on, let me see. Woolly could have played here in a somewhat of a aggressive manner. Brian quickly spotting that he would bingo to a C with linoleic or to an R with lion leer, but that very strange looking word, but I don't believe either of those is likely to come open. Harshan playing Jeanette for 31. This looks really strong if that's going to be what he goes with here, and it is. Just continuing to put as much scoring pressure as possible and leave some balanced tiles in the AN combination. And if Brian were to have a C or R to play through here, he would be thrilled. But without one, this is a really bad rack for him to have right now. These tiles are going to be really difficult to score with. Really tough to score with. And even hard to come up with a play that keeps a good bingo leave that doesn't score absolutely nothing here. Are you looking at playing like oil to leave a good bingo leave? That's so weak. But there's not going to be a very good play for Brian here. It's been all Harshan here in Game 5 as the fortunes reverse for him after a couple tough games in his first 4 in the match. But it's going to be a long road for Harshan, fraught with challenges as Brian has played so well. His word knowledge, very impressive. Both players are not apt to miss anything. And there you go, Kilo, right? A play like this just feels brutal from Brian's perspective here, but it seems like it is as good as anything else. There's one play that scores a little bit better than anything else. Oh, you might go ahead and just open the bottom of the board here. Seems reasonable. At a score line like this, you can do some more creative things just because all the usual techniques are just not that likely to deliver you a miraculous win. So you can deviate a little bit. Just want to point out the highest scoring play available here is Oni. I would not consider that to be the best play just because its leave is not very good at all. but that's kind of a fun spot that you could potentially get 27 points there. Instead, the play is going to be Gil to open the lower rows of the board. So, back to Harshan. He is up huge already, and he's got the X on his rack, which we'll see. I guess from his perspective, he's got to be thinking, what is the worst case scenario? Is there a worst case scenario part of the board that I need to block? And really there isn't. He's just going to go ahead and play Axe and draw into more bingos. Raveling available to the L of Gil. He has a Verring set up as well. Not sure where that's going yet. Nifty for 30. Brian getting set to play here. Just turning some tiles, getting as good of a score as he can get. Oh, Havering. Oh, my God. Havering. 98-pointer. My God. Harshan is just pummeling the bingos down in this game. Again, Brian is up 3-1, and he can afford to lose not just one game, but look at that. Nice play by him. Players are just going to probably proceed through to the end of this game as fast as they can. Havering, really nice play by Harshan to hit another bingo. Great response by Brian. And Harshan's not going to bingo again, but that's okay when you're up by 200 points. You can live with it. So we will probably... Oh, I got to hit clock back to Harshan. So we're probably going to proceed relatively quickly towards the end of this game with neither player needing to do too much. I did tell the players at the outset of the match that the player with the higher spread, if we get to a game 7, the player with the higher spread in their 3-3 record would get the first move in game 7. So that was just a random way that I chose that. So I'll have to take a look at the results if we do reach a game 7 and figure out which of the two players will have the first move there, as Harshan playing Aya just to keep his vowels and drawing more good letters. Not sure if he has a bingo. Parhelia, I don't know if... I think hair lip is still in some dictionaries maybe. So good tiles though, for sure. Not 100% sure that actually anything fits on this board, but we'll see. So Brian continuing to grind and play the best that he can. This has definitely been all Harshan here with a slew of bingos in this game en route to what's going to be Harshan's second win in the series in game 5. Given that this game is relatively decided, we'll just use a quick moment here just to say that this app is a new, relatively new app called Scrabble. It's just called Scrabble. Nice thing about it is that, as the name would suggest, it's just Scrabble. No frills, no extras. There are a few nice things like daily puzzles from me and post-game review, but if you're watching this app and wondering how you can get your hands on it, it is available at the link in the pinned comment on YouTube. If you are based out of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or Philippines. Anyone else, you got to wait a few months longer as we continue to polish. Yipe looks like it's going to be the play for Brian here. We're going to add synchronous mode. We're going to add access to the full archive of puzzles. We're going to add dark mode. We're going to add a whole bunch of stuff. And when it's finally released worldwide, it should be a pretty good product. I have been involved with the design of this app from day one, and I think the end result is going to reflect that. One hopes. So, back to Harshan. Are we going to see Brian find a way to play Zibub somewhere? That would be really fun. I'm not sure there is a good spot for it, but that's a cool word. Players are just going to continue to grind to the end of this game. And yeah, it looks like Heap maybe is going to be the play right on top of Yipe. as this game's going to go to Harshan for sure. So the game opened with Harshan playing Droners, then Outgasses, then Enwreath 1, 2, 3 on his first 3 turns of the game. Didn't really have any super slow turns after that, and then hit with a 4th bingo of Havering. Is he going to get a 5th? It's very possible. The board is pretty open still. You can get a bingo ending in an A right here. You can get bingos into the L. And Harshan going to play Pa, leaving as good of a leave as he can get. Maybe it's not the best leave with the L's at the bottom of the board, the primary target that you're looking at, but either way, there's no O's left, so he doesn't have to worry about the Opa hook, so that's pretty reasonable. Nice play. Wow, this is another very strong play by Brian Bubal, overlapping for a ton of points. That's going to be quite nice if that's what he goes with. And he's going to set up his Z here. Oh, that is slick. So I think this word is only valid in Collins. I think you can add an S in NWL. Not that any of you folks out there watching this should care about that. It's just for me. But I can't remember whether that's valid in North America, but it's certainly valid in this game. And that would be a really cool way. Oh, he doesn't. That's interesting. I would have thought he would go ahead and do that just because it sets up the Z in a really fun way, which if you're going to lose the game, you might as well have some fun with it. But he goes back to just Bub. So it's back to Harshan now with pretty good bingo tiles, but no available bingo. Doesn't have really the right tiles to play through these L's down low, which is going to be what he's looking at here. Heading toward the end of the game, there are things for him to worry about. Technically, the Q, Z, V, C. There are a ton of tiles you could get stuck with if you draw really poorly in the late game here. But Harshan's just up by way too much to worry about any of that stuff. So let's see. He's getting set. He has Rec lined up on the rack. That would be maybe a play he's looking at playing here with some hooks like Bay in particular, the trickiest. So, yes, we shall see here. Let me see. All right, I don't think I'm missing anything here. So, okay, do I have it on the wrong screen? No. So I think, is there a way to play the L? I guess that would be what I'm thinking if I have ambitions of bingoing through the L of Gills. I don't really see a great way to do that. Looking also at what Brian has set up. He's got his Z. He has Zeal set up here. Just trying to think where he would be getting set to play that one. All right, here comes Rec. This was the play that we speculated might be coming down. 24 points. Not a great draw. Oh, I should say not a great draw, but there's a bingo there. Squirrels. The weird spelling of squirrel is on his rack. So it can't be that bad when there's a bingo on the rack. But in this particular case, ooh, got the Brian screen. Yeah, there you see Harshan lining it up. I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to play that anywhere, but that's okay. The fact that he drew the Q and the U together is helpful, as he's not going to have any issues playing that letter. Finally, a QU draw, says Lewis. Absolutely. It's been very elusive so far in this match, but we can see it is possible. It is possible. So, all right, there's the Z play at the top of the board. There really isn't anywhere else to get a Z on a triple or another good lucrative scoring spot, so this is reasonable enough. 38 points on offer up high there. And yep, okay, everything is accurate here with the end of game. So Harshan just has to have any kind of reasonable end game sequence here. Doesn't really even have to optimize it, but knowing him, he's going to do his best to do just that. I'm wondering, could it be that bad to just play squirrel into this L, leaving LS as an outplay? I feel like that there's a limit to how bad that can be. Or squill, squirrel or squill. Just have to figure out what are you doing with your letters, your other two letters. Do you have a good, particularly good scoring place somewhere with them? So it looks like squill is for some reason a lot worse. I wonder why. RS just goes out here. Whereas squirrel, let's have a look. Squirrel, for whatever reason, is clearly better. And it's because LS goes out here with mules for many more points. Okay, tricky. But, of course, endgames are tricky. Harshan with ample time to figure this out, should he care. And look at that. That's interesting. Tristle. So the beauty of this play is setting up Sook, but with a bunch of other possibilities with your QS. Here. I guess I would be a little worried that Brian can potentially block all this stuff, but maybe it's just not easy to do. That's a cool idea, though. Maybe it's not possible to block that stuff productively. And maybe you can't do it without keeping the V on the rack. So, all right, let's see here. We're going to see quills for 19. Seems solid. Curious why not for more points, given that you cannot productively use a squills play with just SR on the rack. Either way, no real need to sweat this or think about it in any way. Brian is going to have some decent plays here that use the V. Valse would block it all. I see. Nice. That would be really cool. Brian going to play cave. No need to sweat this one too much. And then Harshan will go out somewhere or another. And that's going to be a big win for him as he goes out with urns here. So hold on. Let me just get set here. It's going to be caved. All right, going off mute for just a second. Another great game for the two of you, and I don't think we need delay. It's Brian's move to go first in the next game, so whenever you're ready, you can feel free to rematch and get game 6 underway, Brian. All right, so we're just going to have him go straight into it here. And whoa, look at that, woofing. Oh my God. So just as Harshan got off to a great start in the previous game, it's Brian this time who plays woofing for a gigantic opening play. So the streak of drawing coming to a quick end here as a much tougher game in the offing potentially for Harshan at an 86-point deficit to start this one. Wow, that was quite sudden. And more good tiles, too, for Brian, I might add. I don't know if he necessarily has a bingo right away, but definitely going to be another uphill battle for Harshan in Game 6. We'll give Harshan a star after winning the previous game. He's up to 2 of them. So this is game 6. Brian leading the match 3-2 and opening with a great big bingo to start here. And Euro Note. Oh my gosh, crazy. Euro Note double potentially through the O's, but are they about to get blocked in the nick of time here? Corny. Yes, that is the play for Harshan. Nice play. Corny. Blocking what would have been a brutal immediate bingo and making Brian's decision much tougher. Much tougher. Nice play, Harshan. 38 points. Still in arrears in the early going, but it's a long game. It is a long game indeed. And this is going to be likely a very low scoring play for Brian because it's just he's got all low scorers and no bingo available. So there's such a huge difference with racks like this between getting your bingo down and not. This is why playing defense is so important. Slowing your opponent down and turning what would have been an 80-ish point play into a 9-point play or something of that nature that we could easily see here if Brian wants to play his O and his U. Yeah, it's going to be a whole different game from if Brian was able to get that second bingo down immediately. So, is he thinking about just playing OU right here? This is very uninspiring, but leaves extremely good bingo tiles behind. Maybe the resulting board is just a little bit closed down. Maybe you're just looking at playing something off of the C, because no matter what leave you keep, it's going to be tough to get a bingo down on the board after this. That being said, OU takes an R and a T hook, both of which Brian has. So if he draws into a bingo, the odds are quite good that he'll be able to play it. And he's drawn well. He's definitely drawn well. Harshan with nowhere near bingo tiles yet. But I feel like Brian's been so good with his longer word bingos that he's going to at least be looking through some of these nice combinations to see if he has any 9-letter words, but not sure there is any available for him. So that's a godsend for Harshan, just a 9-point play. That's going to give him an opportunity to play something much higher scoring, and maybe he can draw his way back into this. That being said, after Brian plays just 2 points, you got to be wary about opening the board. It looks like Kehwa. This is a good play. This would normally be a perfectly good play and a solid play, but it is going to yield a bingo back from Brian of Paranet. Close to pernoctated, yes, or pernoctate. That would be fantastic to see that again. I think most of us don't expect that to hit a Scrabble board again in our lifetime, but it did hit a board once, famously enough. So Harshan is probably reacting a little bit to not wanting to open anything unnecessary, and this is a really clever variation. Harshan playing Hulk for 31, the same score that he would have gotten for playing here, refusing to open the board, and it's going to save him a lot of pain in the short term because a lot of his plays in this spot would have given bingos back to Brian, but he was not willing to take that chance with Brian making a low-scoring 2-tile play of 2 1-point tiles, definitely indicating a high degree of strength. So Brian with a tough decision on his hands here. Still in good shape. He got his huge early bingo down, and he has good bingo tiles again. He has a good spot to play a P if he wants to. The trick is which word to play. What do you play? Just PE? This looks like it leaves really good tiles, But you're just asking Harshan to make a defensive play here that, I mean, you're taking out your own hook. You played OU previously hoping to play something with our or out. You're blocking that and setting up an S hook that you don't have and a really flexible hook that Harshan will basically use every time to try to block. So it's tricky. I'm not sure what I would do here. You could play longer if you want. You could play pen or something like that. This is still pretty easily hookable. So tricky. This is a real, like, it's not clear if there's a real standout option here. I get, oh, let me just see. Sorry. Oh, Brian did go ahead and play just PE and drew retinal for the second time this series. He had a Lateran in the previous game with these exact tiles. But it is going to be somewhat difficult for Harshan to stop Brian from bingoing now. So let me clock him. This is, I mean, in the absence of a better play from Brian, I think that was probably his best choice. And Harshan is going to go ahead and balance his rack and play bow. Retinula plays. Is that it? That's a very risky play as it hooks with all kinds of stuff. Oh, no, there's way more stuff. Oh, yeah, of course. Sevens here. Rat line. Things like that. No need to play Retinula. Sorry, folks. A few games in the can here. A little bit slow on the uptake. But yes, there actually is a very nice play. End Trail. Not valid in North America, but it is valid in this game. End Trail here. Let's see if he's spotted that. Nope, just Reliant. Not sure if you want to put a letter in a triple lane or not, but that would be a cool option. Reliant scoring 72 looks quite solid. That's going to give a very nice lead to Brian, who is already up decently, but Harshan's done a good job of clawing his way back a little bit prior to this play. So Brian thinking it over. Brian again needing one more win to polish off this match and win the ABSP Masters Melee. Harshan needing 2 more wins. He just won in Game 5. He needs to go on a 3-game winning streak, including that game. Reliant is the play for Brian. Only play better and trail for 81, and maybe he doesn't want to open the triple lane. So, not what Harshan wants to see at all. However, he will still have ways to fight on. Both blanks still to come. Not the best draw for Brian. So we could see Harshan go on a bit of a spree here if he makes a good either scoring play or balancing play. There is a really funny play. If Harshan wants to, I don't think this is his style, nor is it very many people's style, but if he wanted to play duel here, setting up his N, there have been a number of N's already on the board. N, 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 fourth. So there's only 2 more. Of course, you got to worry about the S's with this play as well. But maybe at this deficit, do you take a gamble and play duel? I don't know about it. I think Harshan is getting set to play Toledo here, which looks like much more natural and human of a play, and I think it's a good play. Oh, he's just going to play Told. Interesting. I thought he would play the O as well. And there's the Q back again. Never too far. And I don't think Brian's going to let that easy spot to play Chi at the top of the board remain open. I think he's going to play the J up there. Jam. He could play JAI if he wanted to. Instead, he goes for more points. Going for 8 more points at a cost of keeping 2 eyes on the rack. Seems reasonable. It certainly doesn't feel like changing his I to an F would help him that much. But wow, very quickly down comes Chin in response. Definitely the best idea for Harshan there. And a blank finds its way onto his rack in the nick of time. He needed that in a big way. So the game is going to get closer in a hurry, but Bryant's going to have good plays here. He should be able to do something productive. Just wife seems okay right here. But replots maybe with Butte is what Harshan is thinking about there. That would be very reasonable. So let's see what Brian elects to play. Oh, maybe Brian will play something with Butte. He has some stuff, but he's going to go ahead and play wife. Seems reasonable to me. It keeps the duplicated T's, but you can live with that. You're scoring 32. And Nictate. Oh, man, this is going to be met immediately with a bingo in response. So right as Harshan gets back in this a little bit with an 81-pointer, he is potentially going to get hit with Nictate in a hurry. Now he's thinking about playing Plotter or Prolate. Prolate scoring 81 in the same spot. Gonna get hit with Nictate after either of those options. And it's still going to be an uphill battle. So Harshan may need to draw something good immediately. The nice thing, though, it's not going to feel good if he plays Prolate here, and then Nictate is going to have to go here in response. Nictate, per Nictate, nice. So now that's going to give Harshan a triple back potentially. So Prolate is the play. Nice play, 81 points, his highest scoring play. And if you're Brian, you only have one option to bingo here. Oh my God. Biznaga. That is going to play in response. Is there anything even better? Look at this. There's nothing to really think about. Nictate for 76, and that is going to give Harshan at least Biznaga on top for 97. But if he wants, he can even just play Zing and continue to put pressure on in that manner. So that's crazy. Let me get this. Okay, everything's updated. So even though Harshan is now down by 100, he has an 100-point play. If he wants it right now, he can get that. If he wants, he can play it slow by playing Zing. Zing, of course, is a very risky play. This is like one of the more exciting words that you could put in this corner because of the eyesing hooks, and there are a bunch of eyes left. So you could easily see Brian could have an eye. He doesn't. Brian is almost certainly looking at playing something like Garvey here that's going to score a boatload down low. He can play heavy. He can play heavy here. He can play Garvey in this spot. He can play Garvey here, which is better because you get the Y. So Brian is going to answer with a very big play. Actually, Biznaga here forces the weaker version of Garvey, which is still going to hit super hard with Aper. So even if Harshan bingos here, he is definitely going to need more. The nice thing, though, we still have yet to see an S be drawn by either player, and this spot is just going to sit open. Man, it is tempting. If I'm Harshan, it is just so tempting to just play Zing here. Biznaga scores 27 additional points. That feels like exactly enough to make it a very difficult decision. Wow, really interesting choice here. It's truly down between those. We know Harshan saw Biznaga quickly. He arranged it on the rack. He definitely sees it. It plays right here. An amazing find. One of these really fun words. Big Bang Theory, Watchers, Bazinga, not playable yet. If you like Big Bang Theory that much, you should lobby for Bazinga to get in there. It's not yet. And Zing scoring 72. So playing this scores 72. Playing here scores 97. A 20, sorry, I said 27. A 25 point difference. The chance of bonusing after Zing is basically entirely dependent on drawing an S and playing with feds. But look, there are 4 of them to go. You've got all 4 lurking. There's never going to be a better chance to draw an S and play with it there. But that being said, I think mathematically playing your bingo now is better. If you had an S on your rack that you could keep somehow to gamble and go for this spot, then all of a sudden I think it's arguably better. But yeah, curious to see what Harshan's going to go with. What has he arranged his letters towards now, I wonder? Oh, Zing, of course. He's thinking about playing Zing. So if you do this, your rationale is I want to draw an S and play something here, as Brian is almost certain to block. Also, as has been pointed out in the chat, this is going to get hit with a grising for a boatload of points. You get hit with that snapback. Of course, it's not a gimme that Brian sees that, but he's been so good in this match. You got to assume that he's going to find his hooks to Zing if he has them available. So Harshan is going to play Biznaga for 97, and he really needs to draw an S bingo in a hurry, and it is definitely possible that he will do that. There are several S's still to draw. He's playing all 7 of his letters, so he's maximizing his odds of doing that. And unbeknownst to him, he is blocking the better version of Garvey. He's forcing Garvey over 2 squares. And oh, he's going back. He's going back to Zing. He's going back to Zing. What is he going to do? The outcome of the game is going to be so different depending on these 2 plays, where from our POV, they're so close. To me, it's really like just tossing a coin as he plays Zing. And Brian he's not stopping at all. Garvey scores 57. It's going to be a good play, and he's going to go ahead and make that play. A Grising would have scored even better, but look at this draw for Harshan. He draws the S. Diabase doesn't really help him here. Garvey for 57. A huge play, but Harshan is still very much in this. He drew the S. He's going to be able to play with Gups. That is the nice thing. So Gups is still there, but man, after Gups, then Brian plays. Now he's drawn S's, and he can play something there. Oh, that looks tough. Now I'm not sure what the future is after that. So maybe what you need to do if you're Harshan is play this now and draw into a Zing extension. That could be what you're looking at doing. Sorry, I got to go to Harshan's. So he is getting set to play in Dabas. He needs a Zing extension in all likelihood, or more S's. He doesn't know which yet. He's going to go back and play in Dabas here. And we're going to be super careful about clock running from here on out. So he's close. He's very close on the scoreboard. Oh, man, he's drawn eyes. He has eyes. And he has Riviera on his rack. Not sure that helps him yet. Does he have anything with that? He has Riviera, Rivierizing. I don't think he has an extension that reaches up there, which is brutal. Socks is the play very quickly back from Brian. Using his S now to prevent Harshan from having anything good in that spot. Very wise choice on his part. Start Harshan's clock here. I feel like with the two eyes in hand, he is going to have exclusive access to this spot. So he can be patient. If he doesn't see a zing play there, a zing extension now. That being said, the score is such that it's going to need to be a really big one if he's even going to win the game on the strength of a play like that. He's down by 54. Brian might be able to just play something overlapping here. I guess he would play, I'm not sure what he would play. Something that doesn't hook, ideally. But yeah, this is brutal. Maybe Harshan is the play for Harshan to play Rav here, keeping his two eyes and setting up a spot where he can end in IER as a bingo, preventing Brian from playing there. Oh, he's going for it. Brilliant. Brilliant play, if that is going to be his play. I feel like this is as good as it's going to get. Oh, he's picked it up. He's going to play Rev because he's thinking I'm going to maybe draw an E, which is definitely possible to do. So Rav is the play there. And diarizing, you see Harshan very quickly arranging it. Diarizing is going to play with Zing for a boatload of points. Is that enough? Is that enough points? 60. It scores like a bingo. So if Brian does not hit hard enough or block it in some way, right? He's got to be careful to... Now he has to worry. There are definitely things from his perspective that he needs to worry about this R. But also, I'm sure he's... Wait, something's... Oh, I committed the wrong play. That's why. The tracking's off. I committed the wrong play. Stand by. There is an A. This should be fixed. Yeah, this is better. Okay. Fixed. Fix the tracking. This is accurate now from Brian's POV. 4 tiles in the bag. Definitely plenty of stuff to worry about with Zing and plenty of stuff to worry about with this R. And there's no great way to score that well and handle both of those at once. Harshan making things difficult. He's got 60 points on offer with diarizing, which if that spot stays open, it is getting hammered down. There's no way anything else is doable here. I should allow you all to look at the unseen tiles too, but well, I guess you can see them from Brian's POV there as he looks at it. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff. He's getting set to play Zeds. This scores very well, 32 points. But Harshan is going to be able to score 60, keeping his S. That's a big deal. So there we go. Zeds is the play. No need to wait. Zeds comes down. Diarizing, leaving NS. And not great tiles here for Brian, but with TNS, is that going to do it on this really, really tight board? Is it possible that Harshan needed a vowel draw there to win this thing? I think he did. I think Harshan needed to draw a vowel, and amazingly, after Brian's play, I think he drew all the vowels left, and that might do it for him in this game. So you cannot say that Harshan did not give his all to come up with a winning pathway in this game. Don't think anything won? Oh, I feel like it's possible. I mean, the scoring plays aren't that great. Shouldn't you, with like SN, shouldn't, so Prolate takes an S in Collins, so shouldn't you be able to like play something there for enough points to outrun Brian? But not sure. That's a tricky one. Very curious to see how often does diarizing win. But yeah, Brian should be able to relatively comfortably pull this out. I'm not sure exactly what he's supposed to do. If he plays... Oh, he has plays with Erev. So he could play Hume here, but that would give Harshan outs. I think he's still winning after that play. Unless he's U-stuck. Love. He wouldn't be U-stuck. So he should be okay. I think his reasonable plays here are going to get the job done for him. And yeah, I'm just mostly curious to see, would diarizing have won after vowels or not? Let me see if I can check that real quick, because I'm super curious about that as we think about it. Let's try to figure this out. So Brian with 2 minutes, not a lot of time to think this through. He's thinking about playing HUE potentially somewhere, but I just think Harshan with TNS. That was a brilliant try by him. A number of really, really tricky moves by Harshan that he had to navigate through. Diarizing wins with an E draw, not with an A draw. So Harshan needed to draw an E, apparently. Yeah, Rev creating the E hook as well. All right, so Brian is getting set to potentially just play I think that's going to get the job done. Not sure if he's thinking about the Hume hook. So for the record, with overtime, I'm just going to run a separate clock. I really don't want overtime to factor in here. He's going to go ahead and play Hugh. I'm going to make sure that the players are not wasting time looking at animations. I'll give Harshan like a couple seconds. He's going to play ST for 16. Hugh for 22. Game is so close to call. Harshan thinking about playing just ST for 16, which is going to be good. Brian spotted what I think is going to be his follow-up move pretty quickly of just playing down there, and that should be enough to outrun. Barely. Ooh, Harshan's thinking about it. Oh, he's going to block down there, leaving ST to make things a little more difficult. Okay, that's the play there. Cut to the two-board view, potentially. We'll let Brian's clock start. He's going to play MEU. This is going to set up ST beneath. I actually need to go back and change the play. I thought Harshan committed it. So ANE. Is this going to be enough? Probably. Because Brian's just already up so solidly that ST is going to score 16 in that spot anyway. So, wow, craziness. There we have it. Insane. Absolutely insane. I'm unmuting on the Zoom. What a crazy set of games there. What can you say? the missed bingos. Obviously, Harshan did not miss a bingo. He saw Biznaga full well and chose Zing to complicate things fully. But what a what a match. That was insane. Um, guys, you just treated everybody to quite the spectacle. Congratulations, Brian, who wins 4 games to 2. Commiserations, Harshan. Really, really amazingly played match to the both of you there. Everybody on YouTube is loving it. Um, and just for the record, that means Brian is the winner of 500 US dollars and Harshan winning 250 USD. Cut back to the board so you can actually see the players as I talk to them. But all right, what's more to say? Any thoughts from either of you as we conclude what's been a really entertaining series of live stream matches?
Congrats to Brian. I really enjoyed that and look forward to seeing you all at Easter.
Yes. Brian, any thoughts from you on the match?
Yeah, thank you for the games, Harshan, and see you at Easter.
Amazingly, I can even get in on the act and say that I will see the two of you at Easter Match Play as well, which is incredibly exciting. So yeah, that's it, folks. What a great series of matches. I think, again, what's next on the ABSP channel is we're actually going to get more app-based gameplay between Harshan and Phil Robertshaw in an exhibition match on Friday of this week before we return to good old over-the-board Scrabble. Yes, that is why we're here, to play OTB Scrabble, not to just showcase an app, but we are very, very grateful to Harshan, Brian, Lukeman, Phil, all of our other players who competed in the ABSP Masters Melee. So with that, thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate you all. And we'll be back on Friday with more great Scrabble on the ABSP YouTube channel. See you then.